Well, well, well. The promo for episode 7 has finally dropped, and it looks like the creators have once again managed to pile up even more questions instead of giving us answers. On one side, Henry has started hearing strange voices. On the other, tensions between Julie and Elgin seem to be rising. Meanwhile, Boyd appears to be preparing everyone at Colony House for a major threat that's coming their way, but the biggest mystery of all has to be Victor's reaction. What exactly did Tabitha find inside the man in yellow's old car that instantly triggered Victor's decades-old trauma? Could this be connected to the yellow doll? Could it have something to do with Eloise? Or is the key to the entire curse hidden inside that object? Let's break down the episode 7 promo frame by frame and uncover every clue the creators may have hidden for us. Right from the opening scene, we see Jade and Henry together. And honestly, Henry has been drinking a lot lately. We've seen him with a bottle in hand almost non-stop since episode 5. What's funny is that Henry has known since season 3 that his wife was killed by the creatures, yet somehow the grief seems to be hitting him a year later. And it almost feels like what bothers him most isn't that Miranda died. It's how the man in yellow was involved. At this point, Henry looks less heartbroken and more obsessed with unanswered questions. But jokes aside, the bigger question is why Jade is sitting here drinking with Henry when he and Boyd literally just discovered a secret door leading into the tunnels beneath the town. Shouldn't they be investigating that immediately? This raises two possibilities. Either the secret door isn't what it seems and could be a dead end, or they're waiting for the perfect moment to enter. And honestly, the second option makes more sense. Remember, the creatures spend the daytime inside the tunnels and come out at night. So if Boyd and Jade plan to explore the tunnels safely, nighttime would actually be the best time to do it. Then things get even stranger. Henry suddenly starts hearing voices. Do you hear that? What's interesting is that Jade doesn't seem to hear anything at all. Now this becomes important because we've already seen Sophia's blood affect people in unusual ways. Henry drank that blood, and now voices are appearing. At the same time, we've also seen Mariel experiencing strange auditory phenomena in previous episodes. Could Henry be going through the same process Sarah once experienced? Has he somehow become connected to whatever force is influencing the town? And if that's true, then why are these voices specifically targeting certain people? What is the man in yellow trying to achieve by making them hear echoes of the dead? Is he trying to manipulate them, punish them, or prepare them for something much bigger? Another detail worth paying attention to is the flashlight shining directly into Henry's face. Who is holding it? Henry reacts as if someone has suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Could a new character be arriving? Could an intruder have entered the scene? Or, and this is where things get really interesting, could this somehow be connected to future Julie's story-walking abilities? For now, we'll have to wait and see. The next scene shows Julie and Elgin inside the diner. Julie clearly looks frustrated. The conversation feels like she's challenging Elgin about something he failed to do. Elgin tries to justify everything by saying that what happened was part of a larger test. Now, here's where things get complicated. Sarah was responsible for Elgin losing his eye. But does Julie actually know that? Because if you remember the previous episode, Sarah and Julie were beginning to rebuild trust. They shared one of the strongest emotional moments we've seen recently. While preparing Sophia's room and painting together, Julie was finally starting to forgive Sarah. So what happens when Julie eventually learns the truth? What happens when she discovers that Sarah has once again become involved in something violent? That revelation could completely destroy the bond they were starting to rebuild. Moving on, the next major scene shows Boyd addressing everyone at Colony House. He's clearly trying to motivate people, calm their fears, and prepare them for whatever comes next. But there are multiple ways to interpret what's happening here. The first possibility is that Boyd is preparing the residents for an upcoming threat. After all, Boyd may have opened a doorway directly into the tunnel system beneath the town. In the heat of the moment, breaking through that barrier may have felt like a victory, but now reality starts to set in. If those tunnels truly connect to the creature's underground network, then Boyd may have accidentally created a direct pathway into Colony House itself. In other words, the monsters might now have access to a completely new route. That alone would justify Boyd gathering everyone together and preparing them for the worst. The second possibility is much simpler. People are scared. The town has been hit by one devastating event after another, and morale is collapsing. Boyd has always been the person holding everyone together, so this could simply be another one of his leadership moments, reminding people not to give up, the classic Boyd speech. Keep fighting, keep believing, don't let fear win. But there may be a third possibility hiding underneath all of this. What if Boyd and Jade are about to enter the tunnels? What if this meeting isn't about preparing everyone for a future attack? What if it's a goodbye? Think about it. The tunnels represent one of the most dangerous locations we've ever seen in the series. If Boyd and Jade go down there, there's a very real chance they don't come back. Boyd knows that, and maybe that's why he's speaking to everyone now, because if something happens to him, the town will lose more than just a leader. Boyd represents hope. He's the person everyone looks to when things fall apart. If Boyd dies, the emotional damage to the survivors could be even worse than the physical threat itself. So perhaps this speech isn't preparation for battle. Perhaps it's preparation for a future where Boyd isn't around anymore. Then we get what is arguably the most important sequence in the entire promo. Victor brings Tabitha and Ethan to the junkyard to show them the man in yellow's car, the very vehicle connected to his arrival. And that's when things take a dramatic turn. Tabitha discovers something hidden inside the vehicle after opening the hood. Whatever it is appears to be wrapped up carefully, and the moment it is revealed, Victor's trauma is triggered immediately. Now here's where the theories begin. One possibility is that the object is the mysterious yellow doll that was teased months ago. Many fans will remember seeing promotional material featuring both the man in yellow and a strange yellow doll. We also saw what appeared to be a similar doll in Julie's possession. At the time, one theory suggested that the doll belonged to the man in yellow's family. Perhaps he and his wife once had a child. Perhaps that child died, and perhaps the doll became a replacement for the child they lost. If that's true, it could explain why the sacrifice of the 7 children became so important. Maybe the ritual wasn't about power at all. Maybe it was an attempt to bring someone back, a desperate act driven by grief. Of course, that's still only a theory, and right now we simply don't have enough evidence to fully support it. But if future episodes reveal more connections to the doll, this theory suddenly becomes much more interesting. However, there's another detail we shouldn't ignore. Victor's reaction. The emotional response we see from Victor feels far more personal than a simple reaction to a creepy object. It's almost as if he's recognizing something. Remember, Victor's memories are fragmented. Many of his childhood experiences remain buried beneath years of trauma. So what if the object isn't connected to the man in yellow's family at all? What if it's connected to Victor's own past, specifically Eloise? Imagine for a moment that the wrapped object actually belonged to Eloise, a toy, a keepsake, something Victor remembers from childhood. And what if the man in yellow was responsible for Eloise's disappearance? What if Victor witnessed something all those years ago but suppressed the memory because the truth was too painful? Then suddenly, everything makes sense. The object triggers recognition, recognition triggers memory, and memory triggers trauma. That would explain Victor's reaction far better than almost any other theory currently on the table. But there's another possibility that takes things in an entirely different direction. What if the object isn't a doll at all? What if we're all being misled? The item is completely wrapped. We haven't actually seen what's inside. It could be anything. And if that's the case, then every theory we've discussed so far could be completely wrong, which is exactly the kind of trick this show loves to pull. Now let's take this theory even further. If the object inside the car really is the yellow doll, there may be an even darker explanation for why it was hidden under the hood in the first place. Throughout folklore, mythology, and occult traditions, there are countless stories about individuals transferring parts of themselves into objects. Sometimes it's their soul, sometimes it's their heart, sometimes it's their life force. The idea is simple. As long as the object survives, the person becomes nearly impossible to destroy. And that's where things get interesting. What if the man in yellow intentionally placed a piece of himself inside the doll? What if the doll isn't just a toy? What if it's a vessel, a container, a backup plan, a way to escape death? That would explain why it was hidden so carefully. It would also explain why discovering it could be so important to the overall mystery. Because if the source of the man in yellow's power is tied to a physical object, then destroying that object could potentially change everything. Again, this is purely speculation right now, but it's the kind of twist that would fit perfectly within the mythology the show has been building. There's also another angle that shouldn't be ignored. What if the object has absolutely nothing to do with the man in yellow? What if it's connected to Julie instead? Recently, we've seen more evidence suggesting that Julie's story-walking abilities are becoming increasingly important to the plot. She's no longer just experiencing strange visions. She's actively influencing events, and if time itself is becoming unstable inside this place, then we have to consider possibilities that would have sounded crazy a season ago. What if Julie hid something inside that car? What if she knew that Victor, Tabitha, and Ethan would eventually find it? What if this object was intentionally left behind as a message, a clue, a warning, or even a guide pointing them toward the next step? Remember, Ethan specifically talks about clues and answers in relation to this investigation. The show keeps drawing attention to the idea that certain characters are following a trail that may have been laid out long before they even realized it existed. If future Julie is involved, then suddenly every object becomes suspicious, every location becomes important, and every discovery could have been planned years in advance. That possibility alone completely changes how we interpret this scene. At the end of the day, the biggest mystery isn't necessarily what's inside the package. The bigger mystery is why the show wants us to focus on it so badly. Whenever From spends this much time emphasizing a single object, there's usually a reason. The object itself matters, the history behind it matters, and most importantly, the person connected to it matters. Right now, Victor's reaction is the strongest clue we have. More important than the package, more important than the car, more important than any theory. Victor's face tells us that whatever was discovered is connected to something buried deep within his past, and that means episode 7 could finally unlock one of the oldest mysteries in the entire series. Is it connected to Eloise, the man in yellow, the sacrificed children, the yellow doll, future Julie, or something we've never even considered? At this point, every possibility is still on the table. One thing is certain though, the creators clearly aren't slowing down when it comes to mysteries. If anything, they're adding even more questions before giving us answers. And honestly, that's exactly what makes this show so addictive. Every clue creates 3 new mysteries. Every answer opens 5 new doors. And judging by this promo, episode 7 could end up being one of the most important episodes of the season. So what do you think? What was hidden inside the man in yellow's car? Why did Victor react the way he did? And which theory makes the most sense to you right now? Drop your thoughts below because I'd love to hear what you noticed in the promo that everyone else might have missed. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the upcoming episode 7 prediction and theory video. Until next time, keep searching for the clues, because in From, every detail matters.